You're listening to Popcorn Unscripted,
the podcast where we dive into movies and TV shows with no scripts, no filters, just real talk and plenty of popcorn.
I'm Bailey.
And I'm Dylan.
We're here to talk about everything we love
And love to hate.
in pop culture. So grab your popcorn,
Sit back.
and let's get this show started. Okay, Dylan, it's episode 20.
Yay.
Yay! What movie we doing?
We are doing Iron Man 2.
Heck yeah.
Another one of Bailey's favorites.
Heck yeah.
Apparently not so critically.
Yeah. It's apparently not good critically.
Even though we did just see the guy say it was Iron Man 3.
Yeah. No, Iron Man 3 is by far better than Iron Man 2, but it's not better than Iron Man 1.
I don't know. I think all three were good, regardless.
Yeah.
There's no...
I just enjoy Iron Man 3 more because, 1, comedy.
Mm-hmm.
2, RDJ. 3, I love the characters. And, yeah. It's just a movie. Iron Man 3 is just one of those movies that you could just turn on and, it could just be there, tune out, and tune
just
back in.
Just background noise.
Yeah. And it's one that you can, watch over and over and over and over and over and over, which I did. I wore that disc out. Well, I wore all 3 of them out, really.
I was about to say, you pretty much wore out all 3 of the Iron Man movies.
Yeah, I did. I did. For sure did that. Anyway, so Iron Man 2 is today. So what were your first thoughts on Iron Man 2? Did it live up to the excitement from the first movie, or did it feel like a step down?
We probably need to stop asking that question, honestly, because most of the time we don't remember.
Well, you just watched it.
You asked for first impressions, though.
Well, no, I said first thoughts.
Oh, I thought you said first impressions.
No, I said thoughts.
Okay. Wow, we actually changed it up this time.
Well, the bullet point says first
Never mind,
impressions.
you were a step ahead. I registered that you said impressions because we've done that as the opening line every single time.
So what were your first thoughts on Iron Man 2? Did it live up to the excitement from the first movie, or did it feel like a step down?
I feel like it did step up, seeing the fact that we got introduced to new villains, while also we got introduced to issues with the heart reactor.
Arc
reactor.
reactor.
I always do it.
What episode did you do that in?
I don't know. Honestly, it's probably...
I think it's Thunderbolts, maybe. Because
Yeah.
that was the other Marvel movie we've done.
I can never...
'Cause
I always want to say...
McKenna did Iron Man with me.
Yeah, I couldn't... I never am able to say it. I always go...
Arc reactor.
My brain immediately goes to heart reactor because it's for his heart.
Yeah. But, yeah, you're
It's
right.
an arc reactor. But introducing an issue that is poisoning him slowly.
The palladium
Yeah.
is poisoning him. Mm-hmm.
And it causing issues of him needing to find some way to find a replacement for it, along with to reverse the damage that it's causing to him.
Well, no, it didn't reverse the damage. It's...
One time from it continuing to spread the poison.
Yeah.
But it basically reversed the poison that would get rid of it.
Well, technically, it wasn't poison. I wouldn't technically say it's poison. But it was the palladium that was ultimately killing him. Yeah, but I wouldn't call it a poison.
Well,
Because it's killing him over time. If he was poisoned, it would have killed him within days.
Well, look at lead poisoning.
I mean,
It basically works the exact same way.
just kills him over time.
Yep.
And I just made the realization because when I was 3 months old, they had to open me up and put a patch on my heart, on my heart valve. And then they ultimately had to go in and put an artificial heart valve in order to fix it. So you could say that the patch could have been slowly degrading over time. Just like with him, with the palladium, it degraded him over time.
Guys, we have Iron Man right here in front of us.
Well, technically you do, because
Basically.
iron, and then man, woman. Ah! Why'd you throw at me? The crap.
Threw a wrapper from the gum.
Throw wrappers at me. Anyway.
To throw you off.
Ha 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 ha! So punny, Dylan.
I wasn't making a pun.
But you did.
Oh, because I threw it.
Duh!
I'll let you immediately go routes I'm not thinking at all.
And then you realize, oh, I did say that. But yeah, I can agree that this was a step up from the first movie, but how they handled the villains was probably not the best way.
Yeah, I can agree.
As I've watched it over and over, I've watched this movie a million times. Like, I've gotten used to them. Like, you know, they've grew on me, but at the same time, Justin Hammer is just a whiny baby.
To be fair, isn't a lot of rich people in general?
Yes.
I was gonna say, I think you're trying to find a point to counter it.
Well, Tony's not.
Well, I was talking more so real life.
Well, yeah. You're gonna have rich buttholes any time of the week, but
Yeah. Even in Marvel, there's still a lot of rich buttholes.
yeah.
So it kind of plays out.
So, speaking of the new characters, so Iron Man 2 introduces several new characters and expands the MCU. How well does the movie balance character development and story progression? Does it feel cohesive with the first film, or does it try to do too much?
I don't think it tries to do too much. I
think it does slightly.
I think it's only for that one guy.
No, I just feel like there's a lot of characters in this movie.
There
like,
is.
You really think about it. Like, of course, there's characters in the movie that doesn't show up as much, but you do have a lot of characters. Of course, you have Tony and Pepper, which is like your two main characters, and then you have Rhodey, and then you have
Whiplash.
Then you have Whiplash, and then you have Justin Hammer. Then you have Natasha. You have
Nick.
Happy every once in a while.
Yeah, he wasn't really shown that much in this one.
He's like a handful.
It's like a handful of show ups.
A little bit. And then you have Nick Fury, and then you have Agent Coulson. You know, you just have like this diverse cast of characters.
It may have been a little too ambitious with the amount of characters.
Yeah, like trying to tell so much story in such little time.
Yeah.
Because actually, I don't even know how long this movie was. I don't remember.
I think it was close to 2 hours.
Yeah, I think it's like an hour 57 minutes.
It is a 2 hour, 4 minute movie.
Oh, well, I was way off.
So it did.
Well, I wasn't way off. I was off by a few minutes, but.
So it did, in fact, cross 2 hours.
It doesn't feel like 2 hours, though. I'll give them props for that. It doesn't,
really does.
like, the movie, like, paces out so well that it doesn't even feel like 2 hours when it goes by. Unless Disney Plus buffers, then it takes forever.
That's very true, and that's very common.
You know what? I'm going to make a tangent about that right now. Because on my smart TV, Disney, you need to get your crap together. Because on my Vizio Smart TV, it always buffers, and it only does it on Disney Plus, and it ticks me off. Because I'm like, why are you buffering? I have good internet. You have a good connection. Why are you buffering?
You're putting too much credit on Disney.
Well, Disney's a piece of crap anyway, but...
Exactly. That's why you're saying... That's why... It's,
but Disney fix your crap.
Disney servers need to be adjusted properly.
Well, that just means I need to build my own server, doesn't it?
Yeah. Since you did send me 2 videos about Jellyfin.
I did.
I do need to actually do that, and set that up.
I think that would actually be fun to build your own database. But anyway.
Oh, yeah. It'd definitely be easy. Put that on the Raspberry Pi and do that.
Yeah. So moving on to Tony Stark's character development. So Tony is dealing with personal demons and health issues in this film. How do you feel about his character arc? Does his ego get in the way of his growth, or do you see genuine change in him by the end of the movie?
You do see genuine change through him within the movie. At the end of the movie.
At the end of the movie.
You do see him change to be fair, you gotta also take into account the man looks like he's having a midlife crisis because of the poisoning.
You know, now that I think about it, I don't know how old the character actually is in this movie.
I was supposed to say, do we actually know how old Tony's character is in this movie?
If he's in his, I want to say he's in his 40s, at least. Because if he's in his 40s, it wouldn't necessarily be a midlife crisis because he hadn't hit 50 yet.
Yeah, he is 40 years old exactly.
Oh, wow. Look at me go.
The first film was him at 38.
Yeah.
So only 2 years have passed since the first movie.
Yeah. So, technically not a midlife crisis, which you have to give him a pass because the man was dying.
Yeah.
From palladium. And he couldn't necessarily find a new element. He had to, like, rediscover the element that his dad discovered years ago.
Yeah, it's just that the technology wasn't there.
20 years ago, actually.
Yeah, technology wasn't there for him to discover it properly.
Yeah. And so Tony ended up having to do that. And that ended up being the element that he uses. And so...
I just love the fact that he just shoots a high-power freaking laser throughout his entire workshop until it hits the element.
Oh, yeah. That's like...
That just shows how much he gives.
Did you hear him say whoops?
Yeah. It's like,
whoops.
That just shows how much he does not care about his stuff, except for his suits.
Yeah.
Anything like desk-wise
then again,
and
he
stuff
was trying to save his own life at that point.
True. But I mean, like, at that point, like, any documents and stuff on that desk or anything, that's gone.
Yeah.
But then again, the dude's probably got photogenic memory, so he probably doesn't even need that.
Well, that and he has Jarvis, so...
That too. And it's just backed up on a server.
Yeah, so... I don't know why he would have hard copies to begin with. Just to have it, I guess.
Because to be fair, it does help to keep a record of it in case the server goes down at all.
Yeah, that's
or
true.
if someone tries hacking it, like Whiplash does try to do later on.
Mm-hmm.
So it kind of works out to have a paper copy just in case.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. So, how does Tony struggle with his identity as both a man and a hero shape the narrative of Iron Man 2? Is it a fitting evolution of his character?
I would say a very fitting evolution.
Yes, because in the comics, I'm going to reference the comics here, because I know a little bit. But I know in one comic where he actually goes through this same struggle, where he's like, am I Iron Man, or am I Tony Stark, or what? Who am I? I think, and so you actually see him in the comic going through, like, alcoholism.
I feel like he goes through that in every instance they do Iron Man.
A lot of the comics, he is very much an alcoholic.
Well, the reason I say is because there was the comic books that you were mentioning. Then he also had that thought process also in Iron Man: The Armored Adventures animated series. Mm-hmm. And he also did that in the 90s animated series and stuff like that. So it's like, that seems to be a very common thing that they try to hit. For every show, because it's a very good thing to do. To
struggle with who you are as a person and who you are to yourself.
Yep. And they do that with Spider-Man every single time they get.
Well, but then again, Spider-Man.
But then again, I feel like everyone has made this point. I think Marvel just hates Spider-Man because they never can let the man be happy.
Well, the reason why is because Spider-Man is such a lovable character because he's so relatable. He's a very relatable character, and that's why people love Spider-Man so much. It's because he can be so relatable.
I agree with that. It's more so the fact that the dude can never catch a break. He's like he's
Tony
never...
Stark apparently can't either.
Yeah, it's like these two characters are never allowed to be happy.
Maybe that's why he mentors Spider-Man.
Maybe.
So, getting into the villains. So, Whiplash is introduced as the movie's main antagonist, but he has a complex backstory. How do you feel about his motivations? Is he a worthy adversary for Tony Stark, or does he feel underdeveloped in comparison to other MCU villains?
To be fair, I think he is a worthy adversary to Tony.
But I will say this, I do feel like his character was very underdeveloped.
Yes, I can agree fully.
I do agree with that. because it's like you see that he has this rage towards the Stark family because his father Howard ended up deporting his father, which is why they were in Russia in the first place.
And did he die of a sickness?
I don't remember what sickness he had, but yes, he did. He died in his, well, he wasn't asleep yet, but he just died peacefully, I guess.
Because I was trying to think of that, because I think it was because of that. That's why he wanted revenge on the Stark family, was because he felt like it was the reason why his father died.
Yeah, because it was a project that he didn't get to see finish, because because Ivan's father wanted to use it as for money and do it as that, and then Howard did not agree with that, which is why he had him deported. And so, yeah. But yeah, I do feel like he was very underdeveloped, and I feel like it wasn't made very clear.
It really wasn't.
I feel like it was, I've watched this a million times, and I still sometimes think, I'm just like, well, why did he go after Tony anyway?
I think to be fair, he has no one to go after because Howard's already dead.
Yeah.
And he's probably just going after the next person.
Well, yeah.
Because granted, I'm going to be jumping like entirely different medias, but take Dragon Ball, for example, with the Broly movie.
Yeah.
Paragus was mad at King Vegeta because he had sent Broly off to die on a deserted planet, basically, that was very dangerous. And because the king's dead, he just went after his son because that was the next best thing. But they were both named the same exact name.
Yeah.
Since they're both named Vegeta, he's just Vegeta the Third.
Yeah.
So I guess it's basically just that premise, basically. Since you can't take revenge on the main person, just go after his son.
Yeah.
And just take revenge there. That way you're still going after the same bloodline.
Yeah.
But it still causes issues with your basically motivations regardless.
Yeah.
Because you're basically just taking your anger out on an innocent person who had nothing to do with it.
Yeah. So it's basically like Ivan's father kind of like passed this down, like finished the work I started or whatever.
Pretty much.
You know. But again, like I've said, I
he
feel
does feel underdeveloped.
Yeah. I just feel like it wasn't made very clear. And especially with how the actor talks too.
He's very quiet.
With that, especially with the accent and with him also talking in Russian, it's kind of like, I don't know what to make of you. Kind of thing.
It's just hard to really understand his motives because he is very soft spoken when he's talking, so it's hard at times to understand what he is saying fully, especially when the accent kind of causes mistranslation in a way.
Which I was watching it with subtitles. So I could actually see what they were saying, but yeah, I agree. So, how do the Vanko versus Stark confrontations play out in terms of stakes and emotional impact? Does Whiplash feel like a personal rival, or is his villainous arc more about revenge and technology?
I would say more so just revenge and technology.
Yeah, I can agree with that.
Because, we also got to take into account the fact that he's basically at the beginning of the whole movie, he builds basically a weaker version of the arc reactor to power his whips and everything. And yet they're still powerful enough to just slice through metal and stuff.
Yeah.
But they're not enough to just slice right through Iron Man's suit.
Right.
And it shows...
But it did enough to damage it.
It does enough to damage, but not necessarily to just slice right through like it did the car and stuff.
Yeah.
So it's showing that it's got some power behind it.
But you also have to think about what the suit is made of compared to a car.
True. Especially with him taking like tank rounds and stuff.
Yeah, because the Iron Man suit is made out of a gold titanium alloy, which is what he mentions in the first movie.
But do we know what the second suit's made out of? The briefcase one.
The briefcase suit, I am not sure what that could be made out of. It's some kind. I know it's some kind of alloy, but whether or not it's gold titanium alloy like he's used for all of his other suits, that's something I do not know. Actually, off the top of my head, anyway.
Aircraft grade aluminium.
Okay.
And so yeah, it's features a machine look with brushed aluminum and automotive paint. The interior includes genuine leather and ballistic nylon custom modeled EVA foam and hard rubber lining. I don't know. That's what the AI just gave me for it.
For the briefcase suit?
Yeah. I guess it says comic book resources.
Where is the leather coming from?
I don't know.
That doesn't make any sense.
I don't know where the heck the leather came from.
Tony Stark be putting leather in his suits now? The crap?
Yeah, I don't know. It just says, in Iron Man 2, the briefcase suit designed as the Mark V is made out of aircraft-grade aluminum, and museum replica states the briefcase exterior features a mechanical machine look with brushed... Oh, it's because it's going off of when it's actually in briefcase mode.
Oh, okay. That makes sense.
So it's basically aircraft-grade aluminum.
Okay.
So it is strong enough to...
So it's strong enough to withstand...
the electrical current and everything, along with taking pop shots from tanks and stuff.
But I know you haven't watched the Avengers, which we'll get to that. We have like 2 more movies to go before we get to the Avengers. But I will say, in the Avengers, there is a scene where Thor strikes Tony's suit with lightning, and he's able to absorb the lightning energy.
Well, yeah, because he learned from this movie.
Exactly. That's my point.
Hence why he also put a heater in it from the first movie.
No.
Or no, it was the third movie.
Yeah, it was the third movie where he was like, ooh, I want to put a heater in this thing.
It was the first movie where he found a way to make it where he could go into space without coating it with ice and everything, where it shut down.
Yeah. All right, so the introduction of Black Widow. Natasha Romanoff, aka Black Widow, makes her debut in Iron Man 2. How does she fit into the larger MCU, and what do you think of Scarlett Johansson's portrayal? Is she introduced in a compelling way, or do you think her character arc is underdeveloped?
I'm going to let you answer this question.
Okay, so obviously... Since she's introduced in Iron Man 2, there's not much story to... There's not much to go off of for her. So I would say the character's kind of underdeveloped in this movie as well. Because
at this point, she's just trying... In this film, she's just trying to, like, keep an eye on Tony, and that's about it. Just keep him in check.
She doesn't have a very big role in this movie. She just plays an agent. She's just an agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. in this movie. She's just following orders. She doesn't play a big significant role like Rhodey or,
I was going to say Rhodey got more screen time than she did.
But she wasn't introduced until, like, what? Quarter of the way into the movie, maybe?
It was with Tony being in the donut.
No, it was way before that. When he signed over his company, that's when
That's when it was.
That's when she was first introduced into the movie.
I'm thinking the part when Nick told him to take a better look and stuff, see it from a different angle.
Yeah, that's like halfway through the movie.
Yeah. I just laugh at that, just him just lounging in the middle of a donut. That just kills me.
Hey, sir, I need you to please exit the donut.
No.
But yeah, I do feel like her character was very, like, I don't really see the point of having her character there. You could have had any agent there.
Yeah, I think they basically just did that to set her up for later. Yeah, to show up here again.
To kind of set her up for the Avengers, I think.
Maybe it's just to show where the placement of her movie is. I don't know.
No, because her solo movie comes after Avengers Age of... No,
Well, I mean,
her movie comes after Captain America Civil War.
Well,
which is like way down the timeline.
Well, I mean, like maybe it was planned for her to have a movie a lot later than they did.
Or a lot earlier than it did.
Yeah, a lot earlier than when they actually did. And that was the whole reason of having her as the SHIELD agent watching over him.
Mm-hmm.
But
so that way she could,
telling.
But will never know why Marvel didn't go down that route. Yeah, so
maybe the Black Widow movie will have been more well received than it did.
Yeah, that's the only reason why Black Widow didn't do so well is because of when they released it.
Yeah, it was far away from where it was.
Because they released it after Endgame. Because she had died in Endgame. So they were like, oh, people really liked this character. Well, let's give her solo movie now. And I'm just like, bruh.
Ooh, we just killed her. Oh, well, screw the fans.
Pretty much.
To be fair, isn't that what DC just does every single time?
They're trying. They're trying.
They've been trying for the last 20 years.
They did good with the first Aquaman and the first Wonder Woman. I'll give them props for that. I loved both of those movies.
Yep.
I haven't seen any others really outside of that.
We don't talk about Batman vs. Superman.
No, we don't.
God, that
or
movie
the Flash.
is awful. That movie's just awful in general.
Or the Flash.
Good God.
We'll talk about that later. So, how does the film hint at Black Widow's future role in the MCU, and how does her relationship with Tony Stark evolve over the course of the film? So,
I love I'm getting the questions I can't answer.
Well, you know about Infinity War and Endgame, so you can kind of go off of that if you wanted to.
I ain't watched them since 2018 and 2019.
Well, you're going to watch them again next year because...
Keyword, next year. Woo!
We'll watch them again next year. Because we've got a long way to go before we get to those movies. But anyway...
I'll just wait till next year.
I would say there wasn't really much of relationship development, though. If you really think about it. Because he only, sees her, a handful of times.
Did he flirt with her one time with having her shoot one of his repulsor cans?
Yes. That was at the birthday party.
I think that's the only time, really.
Yeah.
Then again, he also wasn't in the right headspace, so...
No, he was drunk and he was dying.
That's my other point. Especially seeing the fact that Rhodey kind of kicked his butt.
Yeah,
and then took the War Machine suit.
I feel like that was a bit uncalled for. Because Rhodey knew something was going on.
Oh, yeah.
Because he noticed of course, Tony being Tony, he brushed it off. He's like, don't worry about it. You know.
It is a very Tony thing, honestly.
It is. He wants to be able to protect the people that he loves, but he himself doesn't want to be protected. Which you see that in Iron Man 3, too.
And also, you see him conflicted when he brings the suit back to the military base. And you see him conflicted about actually letting them, reverse engineer the suit. Yeah.
Because it's this is my best friend's technology.
Well, even so, you can see that he sees that something's up.
Yeah.
And he can tell that this is not what
Well, when
they're
he's
actually
leaving
claiming.
the mansion at first, yeah.
Yeah, you can tell that he knows that this is not what they're planning on doing with it.
Yeah. Yeah. So, because speaking of War Machine... So, James Rhodey Rhodes takes on the mantle of War Machine in this film. How does his character change between the first and second movie? Does his transformation into War Machine feel like a natural progression, or is it forced for the sake of the plot? Okay, to be fair, I don't think it was forced at all. Honestly thought it was natural progression, because in the first movie, he was...
I mean, I can see both.
I don't think
with the way he took the suit, that is.
Well, yeah. But then again, you have to think Rhodey stuck his neck out for Tony and defended him so much, and he was just...
In the first one, yeah.
Well, in the second movie,
one too.
In the second movie, he defended him so much, especially in the courtroom. It's just I stuck my neck... he said, I stuck my neck out for this guy.
keep remembering that one freaking scene. Ugh.
Which one? Oh, that's... Yeah.
That makes me cringe every single time.
The one he's referring to is in the courtroom where the hammer video is playing and he's trying to figure out his hammer drone, and then the pilot ends up twisting his back.
Well, the whole torso, it turns a whole 180 from the legs staying in exact place.
Yeah.
So you can basically tell that the person's spine is completely broken.
Yeah.
And he is going to be paralyzed for the rest of his life. But it's the crunch sound that it makes when it happens. Is
Yeah.
I don't get like queasy and stuff when it comes to stuff like that at all.
It just makes you feel weird.
Well, it makes me like feel like, oh, that definitely hurts like a lot. But I don't know what it is with just that scene alone. It just makes me cringe each time because it's like, oh, I feel that pain.
Yeah. Phantom pain.
Yeah, you almost like a phantom pain, but no. Almost like it. It's almost like you can feel the dude's agony when it happens.
Yeah.
But it's like, the crunch sound from that.
Yeah. But yeah, I feel like it was. I felt like it was a natural progression for his character, because in the first movie he was like, "No, I'm not gonna do that," and then he just goes on.
Well, especially since Tony did call him when they were about to freaking shoot him with fire jets. So he stuck his neck out for like protecting him with the military and stuff from shooting him out of the sky.
Yeah. Hey, thanks.
So it really shows that he does care about Tony and everything, and how much he does stick his neck out for him.
Yeah, it does. And you see as he's leaving the mansion, he's just like, he doesn't want to take the suit from him, but at the same time, Tony's not in the right state of mind to try
really
to defend
use the suit.
To use the suit or to even defend himself. You know,
well, heck,
or
he just kind of randomly fired and destroyed his own house, basically.
Well, the whole fight destroyed his house.
Exactly.
So, but yeah. So, Rhodey's role in Iron Man 2 is critical to the story, but how does his relationship with Tony Stark evolve? Do you think their conflict and eventual partnership is believable?
Yes.
Yes.
Very.
Very. I mean, best friends fight. We have quarrels.
Yeah.
Not a fancy word. Quarrels. I mean, but at the end of the day, you realize, you know what? You're my best friend for a reason.
I just love how the fact that they're casually talking with each other while mid-fight and everything. Especially when he says, "Alright, get down," and then shoots lasers across.
He just, like, does the laser things, and it cuts all the trees down. And just completely cuts everything.
When can you do that? It's a one-time use. And just casually pops the laser, the burnt laser disc out.
Yeah.
It's like, they're, like, so casual about the whole interaction and fight and everything. It's like,
yeah, this is what we do every day.
I mean, basically, they're used to it.
Yeah, or at least Rhodey was.
Yeah, Rhodey's definitely used to it. Tony is somewhat, since he did fight terrorists with the suit also.
Yeah.
So they're in the same boat, basically.
Yeah.
Though Tony does have at least 2 years more experience than Rhodey does.
Yeah, he was like, with all the bells and whistles. Because he was making fun of his suit.
Dear God, that Gatling gun on the shoulder.
Yeah.
I don't know how I feel about the Gatling gun.
How do you feel about the ex-wife? The missile? It's just like, pew! Dink!
That small missile just causes that big of an explosion.
It didn't explode. The ex-wife didn't explode. That's what's funny.
I'm thinking of the wrong missile.
You're thinking of the wrong missile.
I'm thinking of the first movie.
No, you're thinking... So...
No, I'm thinking of the first movie when he shot that small rocket out of the tank and it just...
Boom!
It caused that massive explosion.
With the tank, yeah. That's the one you're thinking of.
Yeah.
No, so in this movie, Rhodey... So Whiplash comes down, he takes off his mask, he's like, "It's good to be back." And then... Rhodey's like, "Oh, I'm gonna bust his bunker with the ex-wife," and then he pops out of his shoulder, it spins, and it does like this flaming thing in the back, and goes pew, dink, falls in the water, and goes psst.
Oh, now I remember.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm mistaken the wrong rocket.
Wrong rocket. And he was just like, oh.
Yeah,
Well,
any more of
that
those?
And then Tony's like, Hammer Tech? Yeah.
A dud, just like him.
For real, though. Hammer didn't do crap.
Well, I mean, to be fair, even his robots were not even designed by him at all.
No, he just pays people off to do his crap for him. He's not even a real weapons contractor.
A wheel?
A
wheel weapons contractor? He's Willy Wheel. Please, sir, I really want some more.
I don't like it. I don't like it. Some of you will get that joke.
Christ.
But Dylan does not.
Of course not.
But anyway, so the theme of inheritance and legacy runs through much of Iron Man 2, particularly with the introduction of Tony's father's legacy, and the invention that he left behind. How do you feel about the film Hold on, I'll get it right in a second. How do you feel about how the film explores family, legacy, and responsibility? There we go, I got it out.
I think it does a good job, especially with setting up how he discovered an element, but he just didn't have the technology.
It's like he knew he didn't have
wield it.
Yeah, it's like Howard knew. He was just like, this, I'm not going to be able to discover this with the technology I have available. This is going to be something that my son in the future is going to have to discover himself.
I'm trying to think for the point in time when he made that recording for Tony. I'm trying to think. Do you think that would have been the exact same time period as him doing the super soldier thing?
No. This is like years after that.
Okay.
Years after that.
Okay.
Because in Endgame, when Tony's getting like the Tesseract and stuff, you remember that part?
Yeah.
So that's Tony's father before Tony was even born. And so it's
gotcha.
after that point when he makes all of that stuff. So he made these videos after that point.
Okay. I was trying to think of
and
when
it's also
it was done because of the projector.
It's also after that point when his dad dies.
Okay.
Which you'll see that in Civil War. That'll explain more about how he died in Civil War.
Okay, I was trying to think of when this happened because since he did pull out film reels to watch it and everything, I was trying to think of the time period when that was made.
But if you want a continuation of like Captain America, Howard Stark, you would want to watch the Agent Carter stuff, the Agent Carter series that's on. It's a really good series. It ran for only 2 seasons, but it was really good.
Gotcha.
I enjoyed that a lot. So, how does the inclusion of Howard Stark's influence in the movie help shape Tony's emotional growth? Does it add depth to his character, or does it feel like a plot device?
I feel like it adds depth to his character.
It really does. Because if you think about it, Tony didn't get to say goodbye to his dad when he died. So, it left that kind of hurt there. It's like, like unfinished business. And I think him watching that video of his dad, like, dedicating that video to Tony and saying, hey, one day you'll figure this out, and my greatest creation will always be you, something like that.
Yeah.
And, I think that kind of healed part of Tony in a way.
Especially since earlier in the film we did see when he was talking to Nick and stuff, what he described his father as. And everything.
He was cold. He was calculated. He never told me he loved me. He never even told me he liked me.
Yeah. It really shows that it was a different perspective of what Tony was seeing as a kid and everything compared to what everyone else was seeing also. So it really shows that this film is basically pulling some trauma for Tony that was never resolved and everything. That way it could
and then
resolve.
this was resolved.
And it was resolving of how his dad actually did think of him, along with his father, in a way, helping him fix his issue.
Yeah.
With his arc reactor.
But his dad also didn't know that was going to be the reason why he was going to have to discover the element.
Yep.
But he knew one day he was going to need to rediscover this element. But I also want to point out, like, how did the diagram that he had in the video, how did that end up in the Stark Industries office? Because we don't see it in the first Iron Man film, which then again, the first Iron Man film
maybe in a storage room.
It could have been. It could have been, for all we know.
Because honestly, that does sound like it.
I just thought it was. I thought it was very convenient that it was just there.
To be fair, I guess in a way you could call that one a plot device of having the diagram and everything. Even though, heck, he didn't even really use it. Well, he basically used it only to then pull up a holographic version of it and then just toss it to the side.
Pretty much, yeah. That's all he used it for, was to kind of like... Which I can kind of see why, because you can't really see it when it's like flat like that.
Well, to be fair, he did smack away the buildings, the trees, and the walkways and all that stuff.
Uh-huh.
So it's like a visual representation of what he's getting rid of to try and figure out what his dad was saying about.
Yeah. Yeah. So, the action scenes in Iron Man 2 are more intense than the first movie, particularly with Iron Man versus Whiplash battle. How do you feel about the action sequences in this movie? Do they enhance the story, or do they feel over the top for the sake of spectacle?
I don't really feel like they were over the top.
I don't think so either. I felt like there was like a good enough balance of story and action.
Mm-hmm. And mixed with a little bit of some comedy also.
Yes, there was like a good bit of comedy in this as well.
Especially during the fight scenes also. It almost felt like he was doing like Spider-Man's tactic of making quips while fighting everything.
Yeah. Maybe that's why Tony didn't like him in Civil War as much. He's just like, kid, be quiet.
He realized he did the exact same thing.
Yeah, and he does the exact same thing, the hypocrite.
Well, then again, it's more going towards the part at the end of the entire fight when they were like fighting all the different robots and stuff that from the guy. So it's just the comedy right there, just them talking so casually while fighting off these guys.
Oh yeah,
that's what kills me every single time. It's a good fight and everything. It's so funny, the fact that how casual it is.
Yeah, and that just goes to show you how much more Tony sees himself in Tom Holland's Spider-Man as well. So the technology in the film, from the new Iron Man suits to the arc reactor, is impressive. How do you feel about the balance between showcasing tech and serving the plot? Is it effective, or does it occasionally distract from the character development?
I don't know. I don't think it distracts from the character development.
No, I think it adds to it.
I think the only character development it really hurt would be Whiplash. In a way.
Well, because if you think about it, because as the character developed, so did the technology.
Yeah.
Especially with Tony.
And with Whiplash's or Ivan's case, it was because of the fact that he was getting access to new, better material and everything.
Yeah.
Because in the beginning of it, he was only using like whatever scraps he could get a hold of,
right,
to try and make his prototype whip suit.
Mm-hmm.
So and then when
Justin Hammer,
okay, I don't know why I said Hank.
You're thinking of Ant-Man.
That's what I'm probably. I don't know.
Hank Pym.
Oh, gotcha. Or when Hammer was able to basically evade him from prison and made him work for him, then he got access to all these different materials that he never would have thought of getting a hold of.
Even called Hammer's software crap.
Yeah. Well, to be fair, it was.
It was.
It was very crap.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, just look at how easy Ivan hacked into it as it was. It literally took him probably, 5 a minute, maybe less than that.
Yeah, maybe less than that to even get into the system.
And it's like,
Can we get
it
some
really
encrypted
shows.
passcodes? Let me get some of those. Boop, 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 boop. Never mind, we don't need any.
It really shows how vulnerable Hammer is in the tech industry and how much he just was depending on Ivan to do it for him.
Yeah.
That compared to Tony's tech.
It shows that Hammer is just a leech.
Yep.
He's just a leech. He just wants to make money. He doesn't care about the safety of the country. He just wants to make money.
Well, look how many people he basically killed or paralyzed with the first editions of the Iron Man suits.
Well, he did say he couldn't get any more volunteers after that.
Exactly.
He really only hurt the one person.
Well, even so, we have no clue how many suits he went through and tested on people, because there's no telling how many were actually documented and recorded.
That's true.
All we have is really that one of that dude getting paralyzed with a crunching back.
Yeah, that's very true.
So we don't know if he's basically killed other people with them or anything.
Nobody knows.
Because it's very ironic when they're finished and everything, they basically look like a very, very poor version of the Iron Man suits. More bulky and everything. And it just shows how much Hammer is how bad he is with technology.
It also shows how extensive his knowledge is, which is 0.
Yep.
So anyway, going into Tony and Pepper Potts' relationship. So Pepper is an integral Did I say that right? Integral. Oh my god. Speak.
Integral?
Yeah, integral.
Integral part of the plot.
Integral to Tony's personal life.
Yes.
And the emotional stakes of the movie. How do you feel about the romantic dynamic between Tony and Pepper in this film? Is their relationship more solid, or does the movie leave it on shaky ground? I would say throughout the whole movie, they were pretty much on shaky ground. But towards the end of the movie, I think they kind of landed. They kind of landed on a good foundation, on a good note. Yeah. Yeah,
I definitely agree, because throughout the whole film, he was just kept pissing her off more and more throughout the entire film, and it was
but you have to also think she didn't know he was dying because he didn't tell her. Although he was trying to tell her, he just didn't really know. He was trying to tell her, but he didn't know how to tell her.
Yeah, you basically just can't. You can't just come out outright and say, "Hey, by the way, I'm dying from such and such." So, I only got a limited amount of time to live.
Yeah, it's like how are you supposed to handle that? You know,
especially when you drop that kind of a bombshell on someone, it's like so out of left field.
Yeah, for real.
Because there's no proper time to just tell someone about that.
Yeah.
So
it's like there's never like a proper time and place.
Yeah. Because how would you really tell someone, hey, by the way, I'm dying because I'm being poisoned from my own arc reactor?
Yeah.
And I only got, probably about a month or 2 to live, so what do you want to do?
Yeah. Let's make a bucket list.
Yeah, for real. It's like, what are you supposed to do?
Yeah. And there's people that actually go through that too.
Yeah. You can't really, there's no proper way to just tell someone about that.
Yeah.
And not be afraid of how they're going to react.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree.
But Grant, it's a lose-lose situation, because you don't know how to really tell someone that, hey, I'm dying. And there's also, it's almost, and if you don't, then they're going to be mad at you for not telling you.
Yeah.
But at the same time, they do at least want the courtesy to know, hey, I only have this much time to live.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, they're just going to take you trying to spend time with them a lot more and everything the wrong way.
Mm-hmm.
And everything. So it's like you don't really know what to do.
Right.
And it puts both people in a bad spot.
Mm-hmm. It does. So, how does Pepper's role in the company evolve, and what does her growth in the movie add to her character? Does her relationship with Tony seem more mature, or does it feel more like a secondary plot? I can kind of see it as a secondary plot.
I can too.
I can kind of see it. Like most of the relationship was kind of put on the back burner because the whole point of the story is him trying to rediscover this element so he can save his own life. Like, that's really the whole point of point of Iron Man 2 is for him to discover that element and to find a better source.
Yeah, because honestly, well, heck, it definitely shows, especially with the way the first movie had his arc reactor, with the fact that he had I'm trying to think of what it was. Was it a copper coil at the end, basically?
Yeah, a copper magnet. Some kind of magnet.
It was a
copper wire attached to a magnet.
Yeah, that way to keep the metal from getting near his heart and everything. And then it progressed to where now he had changed entirely, where now he just took it out, popped out the
palladium,
and then popped in a new cartridge and then put it back on. So you see the arc reactor progressing across all 3 movies.
Yeah.
And it really just feels like a secondary plot, honestly.
Which, honestly, I think a lot of the stuff in this movie is subplots.
Agreed.
Like, I feel like the Tony and Pepper relationship is a subplot. And then you have the subplot of the relationship between Ivan and Justin Hammer. You have that going on. And then you have the main plot where Tony's trying to discover the element or trying to find a new element for his arc reactor. And so, yeah, you just have so much going on in just one movie.
I just realized something. In the first movie, why wasn't the magnet connected to the arc reactor when
she played Operation on him?
No, bald guy.
Oh, Obadiah Stane?
Yeah. When he pulled the arc reactor out of him after basically paralyzing him
took it out.
Well, I mean, like, it wasn't connected to the new one.
No, because she didn't put it back in, remember?
I thought she did.
No, she didn't put it back in. She rips it out. He goes into cardiac arrest, and
starts going into it, but doesn't.
She goes to go back to put it back in, and he's like, "Don't put it back in! Don't put it back in!" And she's like, "Ah, no!" Because she's over here freaking out. She's got goop all over her hands. She's saying, "Oh, is it pus?" He's like, "No, it's not pus."
I wonder what happened to the magnet then.
Threw it out.
Well, I'm talking about what was pulling the metal away from him at that point. If he took the magnet out,
because the arc reactor became the magnet.
Just solely the arc reactor?
Yes. The arc reactor itself is the magnet.
Okay. I guess I was thinking that there was
because if you think about the
missing
surgery
with the arc reactor.
If you think about the surgery scene in Iron Man 3.
They pulled out the metal directly. Yeah, but had the magnet and stuff above it.
They had the arc reactor above his chest, so when they pulled out the shrapnel, it was automatically attracted to it. So you could see that the arc reactor is the magnet itself.
Did they use the arc reactor? I thought they just used a regular magnet.
No, they used the arc reactor. They used the arc reactor.
I thought they didn't use the arc... Hold on.
I'm telling you details you didn't even know.
Okay, I see the arc reactor is still in his chest when he's putting her anesthesia.
Putting him under anesthesia.
Okay, yeah, it was the arc reactor.
I told you.
I thought they used a regular magnet for that, honestly, because of the way it was done. Because they attached another piece on top above it. That way it sticks to that and not directly to the arc reactor itself.
No. It was directly to the arc reactor.
So I was thinking it was a different magnet.
No, it's not a different magnet. It's the arc reactor.
Gotcha. Good God, the amount of pull on that thing then. Jesus.
Yeah. That's why he kept it in his chest for so long.
No, I mean like the range from it, because it's all the way up here.
Yeah.
And it's still got just the
That's
second
how
they...
strong. That's how strong it is. Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah. That's why Jensen said in the first movie, this could run your heart for 50 lifetimes. Or something big for 15 minutes. That's how powerful the arc reactor is. So, we're going to get into talking about the tone and pacing of the film. So, Iron Man 2 has a different tone from the first film, obviously, blending humor with darker themes. How do you feel about the pacing and overall tone of the movie? Does it fit well within the MCU, or does it feel more uneven than its predecessor?
Probably the first.
Please hold.
Did you actually flip?
I lost the question for a second. So, as I had mentioned earlier, it doesn't even feel like the movie is 2 hours long.
No.
With the way the pacing and tone is for the movie, it's like very well...
It feels a lot faster.
It feels faster than it actually is, which is weird. So it's like it makes you lose your concept of time, in a sense. So it's just weird how this movie does that. But overall, it's paced really well. I like the tone of it. I like the little hints of comedy you have in it to kind of take away from the darker things that's in the movie. This movie is, like, I like all 3 Iron Man movies. Let's be real. I like all 3 of them. I've watched them all over and over and over and over again, as you've heard me quote it so many times already throughout this whole thing. So, but does it fit well within the MCU? Since we are watching it in timeline and order, yes, it does, in a sense, because it does develop Tony's character in that sense. So, yeah, I would say so.
Yeah, I agree.
So, do you think Iron Man 2 handles the balance of character growth and action sequences well, or does the movie get bogged down by too much setup for future films in the MCU?
I think it does good for character development, except for Ivan.
Yeah.
As we were mentioning
Ivan
earlier.
and Natasha.
Yeah, Ivan and Natasha were the only ones that were kind of dampered.
And Hammer, but then again...
It's just Hammer.
Which then again, in this movie, it didn't feel like he was very important.
Yeah, he didn't feel like anyone that you should care about, period.
It felt like he was just tossed to the side, and I'm just like...
It was mainly
and in
Ivan.
In the comics, he's a very worthy adversary to Tony Stark. He's a very real threat to Tony.
Heck,
in the comics.
Even in the Avengers, like, animated series and stuff.
Yeah.
He made I'm trying to think. He made a android or a robot that would, as it takes damage and stuff, it will learn from it and immediately heal, and then start mimicking exactly as the person that was attacking him.
Yeah.
And stuff like that. So it's like, he's smart and everything, and a very worthy adversary for Tony.
I just feel like they made him dumb in this movie. I just feel like they made him dumb and just not...
Very dumb.
Yeah, I just don't feel like they did that character justice, in all honesty.
Yeah, he definitely doesn't
even seem like... Because he's definitely much
anybody.
more of a worthy adversary to Tony than that.
Yeah, it feels like he's just there to give Ivan the material to make the suits better and everything, and then use them against Tony.
Yeah.
And that's the only reason why they justified him being in this.
Yeah.
Because, granted, you could probably replace Hammer with any rich billionaire or something, and it'd be the exact same.
To kind of wrap things up, so the legacy of Iron Man 2. So looking back, do you think it is an important film in the MCU Phase 1, or does it feel like a stepping stone for a larger MCU, the larger MCU storylines, or does it stand well on its own as a sequel to Iron Man?
I think it does. It stands well on its own as a sequel. And does set up basically a lot of stuff for the later films. Mm-hmm. Well, for the third film and the Avenger films, seeing the fact that it did introduce Natasha as a character, everything, so that she will play a bigger role later.
Yeah, it is like an added stepping stone to the larger story that we will see as we move forward into the timeline.
Even though it really didn't necessarily need her to begin with.
Yeah.
She was literally just a non-existent character, honestly, that did not need to be there, but just
so happened to be
was there.
Yeah, she was just kind of there.
That's what I'm thinking, that it was made so they could make a Black Widow movie, but then it
they
just
changed
did
their minds.
not do it
They
happen.
just changed their minds.
I'm very curious why they wait so late for that.
Who knows? It's Marvel. Who knows?
That's very true.
So, for our last question, how do you think Iron Man 2 sets up the Avengers and future MCU films? Does it leave enough room for future development, or does it feel like it's too focused on preparing for the next films?
I mean, is it bad either way? Because for the last question, it sets up for every single movie going afterwards, basically.
That's true. Well, it sets up Tony's character
in future films, along with setting up a new character that's going to be introduced in a later film, aka the Avengers, and everything. So it sets up everything for stuff to make sense for later films if they include these characters.
Right.
And it does what? What's the first part?
Does it leave enough room for future development?
And it does leave room for future development for these characters as well, specifically Tony. That way he can grow for everything that's happened in the second film, along with adapting to everything in the later films.
Right.
So I can see it from both angles, but to be fair, that's basically just a whole premise of setting up stuff for later films. Is you're going to set up the arc reactors and stuff, and everything. It's definitely been altered in all three films. And what they cause later on in other films that are not the Iron Man ones.
Right. So,
especially with how he develops the suits and everything, that's another thing for developing his character solely. Especially with the suits coming to him and everything.
Yeah.
Like, it was the second film where he was putting the chips in him. That way it comes to... No, one thing in third film.
No, that's the third film.
That's when he did the chips in his body. That way they come straight to him via just hand motion and everything.
Yeah.
And it was the just Avengers when they were dealing with Loki?
Yeah, the Avengers, yeah.
And the suit locked onto his bracelets to come to him? That way it could attach him. So you see the progression of how he's developing these suits and what they can handle as well.
And also how much easier it is for him to take on and take off.
Oh yeah, not to mention it's getting faster every time they're putting on.
Yeah.
Because, granted, in the first film he almost crashed into the ground after it froze.
Yeah.
And everything. Then the second film it got faster with that. But granted, it still took a while to put on the suit from the briefcase one.
Yeah.
Good God, that thing took a good bit.
But it's a very iconic suit-up sequence, though.
It is, and Jesus Christ, Whiplash did not take an opportunity for the amount of time it put on that suit.
Yeah, he did. Which then again, no, he couldn't have done anything because he was still held up against the wall with the car.
Oh, okay. Well, still,
because Tony ends up pushing the car away with his foot.
Gotcha. Oh, that's right. It was only to the whips that was amplified, not anywhere else.
Yeah. So he couldn't really do anything. Whips. Yeah.
So it really shows how much it's progressing everything with the technology, especially showing how Grant, I noticed also this distance from where he's getting to the ground and everything is getting shorter, while also taking less time. Because the first movie, he's basically in the stratosphere when he powers off from freezing, and when he almost basically face plants in the ground. And then the Avengers movie, he almost face plants, but he's in basically a regular tower at that point.
Yeah.
So it's getting faster, but also less distance.
Yeah.
So it really shows how much his tech is improving along with what he's doing to these suits.
Yeah. I agree.
Especially with how much damage they can take.
That's all for today's episode of Popcorn Unscripted.
Thanks so much for tuning in.
If you enjoyed the conversation, be sure to follow us on Twitter and Instagram at PopUnscripted, then Popcorn Cinema on Facebook.
And let us know your thoughts or any suggestions for future episodes. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out any future episodes. We upload every Wednesday and Saturday.
If you'd like to send us a message or subscribe for bonus content, check out the links in the description.
Your support means a lot and helps keep the conversation going.
If you enjoyed the episode, don't forget to leave us a review. It helps us out a ton, and we love hearing your thoughts.
Until next time, keep your popcorn close
and your movie critiques closer.
Thanks for listening to Popcorn Unscripted.